July 24th, 1920, Boston, Massachusetts. A small man steps out of a $12,600 Locomobile, the most expensive car in America. In one single day, he collects $200,000 in cash from people lined up around the block. The line stretches 3 blocks. Cops directing traffic, families clutching envelopes, men mortgaging their homes. All for one promise: turn $1 into $1.50 in 45 days. But there's one thing he doesn't tell them. He's not investing in anything. He's not buying anything. He's not making anything. He's just paying. This is the true story of Charles Ponzi, the man who turned his name into a synonym for fraud. Next 20 minutes. How a postage stamp created the exact playbook that scammers still use today, from Bernie Madoff to crypto rug pulls. By the end of this video, you'll know the warning signs that every single one of these schemes shares, and the uncomfortable reason why smart people, not dumb people, smart people, fall for them every time. But to understand how Ponzi built the greatest scam in American history, we need to start where all con artists start: rock bottom. November 15th, 1903. Charles Ponzi steps off the SS Vancouver in Boston Harbor. In his pocket, $2.50. The rest lost to a card sharp on the crossing. In his head, the American dream. Picture this: a 21-year-old Italian immigrant, 5'2", barely speaks English, but convinced he's destined for greatness. What do you want to be in America? Rich. Doing what? Anything that pays. He tries everything: dishwasher, waiter, grocery clerk. None of it works, because Ponzi doesn't want to work. He wants to win. So he moves to Montreal, gets a job at a bank. Not just any bank, a bank called Banco Zarossi. And that's where he learns the magic trick. Banco Zarossi promised Italian immigrants double what any real bank was paying, and every month they delivered, like clockwork. Here's how it worked. Imagine you run a lemonade stand. Customer number 1 gives you $10. You promise $12 next week. But you don't make lemonade, you just wait. Customer number 2 gives you $20. Now you have money. You pay customer number 1 their $12. Keep $8. Customer number 1 tells everyone, "This kid pays." More customers come. You pay them with new customer money. It works perfectly until it doesn't. And for Banco Zarossi, it didn't. The bank collapsed. The owner fled to Mexico with the cash. And Ponzi? Ponzi went to jail. Forgery. Fraud. 3 years in a Quebec prison. But in prison, Ponzi didn't learn to go straight. He learned to go bigger. Because the problem wasn't the scam. The problem was the scale. Fast forward to 1919. Ponzi is 37 years old. He's been in America for 16 years. He's been to prison twice. He's tried dishwashing, waiting tables, import-export, his wife's family fruit business. All of them failures. Every night, he goes home to a woman who married a man who promised her the world and has delivered a rented apartment. He's running out of time. He can feel it. And then, one morning at his desk at JR Pool Company, a dead-end import job he's weeks away from losing, he opens a letter from Spain. Inside, a piece of paper smaller than a playing card. An international reply coupon. Every scam needs a cover story. Something real enough to sound legitimate, complicated enough that you won't check. Ponzi's was a postage stamp. Here's how it worked. Governments sold these coupons so people could prepay postage across borders. Buy one in Italy for the equivalent of 1 cent. Exchange it in America for a stamp worth 5 cents. That's a 400% profit. Legal. Simple. Genius. On paper, Ponzi had just found a legal cheat code to print money. And if he'd actually tried to execute it, this video would be called "The Genius Who Got Rich from Postage Stamps." But he made one decision, one single choice, that turned a clever idea into the most famous fraud in history. The entire world's supply of postal coupons wouldn't cover a single week of what Ponzi was about to promise. But he'd figure that out later. Right now, he had a pitch to make. December 1919. Ponzi launches the Securities Exchange Company. The pitch? Simple, brilliant, insane. How much can you make? 50% profit. In how long? 45 days. 50% in 45 days? Guaranteed. How? International postal coupons. I don't understand. You don't need to. Just invest. And people did. The best scam cover stories always sound just smart enough to stop you from asking questions. Ponzi had that in spades. A real financial instrument, real price differences between countries, and a pitch that made banks look like the enemy. January 1920, 18 investors, $1,800 collected. February, 100 investors, $10,000. March, the first payments go out. People get their 50% in cash. Maria Rossi irons shirts at a laundry, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. She's saved $600 over 4 years. Her neighbor invested $100 with Ponzi and got $150 back in cash. Real money, bills she could hold. Maria walks into Ponzi's office on a Tuesday and hands over all $600. That was March. By April, she'd already told her sister, her cousin, and every woman at the laundry. April, $30,000. May, $420,000. June, $2.5 million. July, $6.5 million. Now, notice what's happening here. Nobody is asking how the money is made. Nobody is reading the fine print. Nobody is demanding proof. Because asking questions feels like a risk, like you might talk yourself out of the opportunity. That "I should just get in before I miss it" feeling. That's not excitement. That's the scam working. And if you've ever felt it looking at a crypto token or an investment group chat at 2 a.m., you felt exactly what these people felt in 1920. Who's investing? Everyone. Cops, firemen, teachers, nurses, the woman who sells vegetables, the man who delivers ice. Nearly 75% of Boston's police force. I'm putting in my life savings, $4,000. Are you sure? My nephew invested $100, got back $150 in cash. Real money. But what if the man drives a locomobile? You think he's broke? Ponzi doesn't just drive a locomobile. He buys a mansion in Lexington, pays cash. $12,600 for the car alone. That's 20 Ford Model Ts. In cash. Remember that $200,000 day from the opening? Here's what it actually looked like inside his office. Employees throwing money into trash cans because the desk drawers were full. One clerk trips over a pile of cash. Nobody bothers to pick it up. But there's one bookkeeper who stays late trying to reconcile the numbers. She can't. The money coming in doesn't match anything going out. There are no coupon purchases, no shipping receipts, no trade confirmations. Just cash in and cash out. She doesn't say anything. She needs the job. But she's looked at the index cards, Ponzi's only accounting system, and she knows what the names on those cards represent. Rent money, savings accounts closed out, second mortgages, and all of it is sitting in trash cans. Ponzi isn't just rich, he's beloved. He donates to orphanages, helps Italian immigrants, gives interviews where he rails against greedy banks. The banks pay you 5% and keep 95% for themselves. They're robbing you. I'm giving you what you deserve. Boston's Italian community treats him like a hero. Women kiss his hand. Men want to name their sons after him. He's not just making people rich, he's making them believe. But beneath the numbers, there's a fact that makes the whole thing impossible from day one. To pay back the millions he's collected, Ponzi would need 160 million postal reply coupons. How many exist in the entire world? About 27,000. It's like promising to fill the Titanic with gold bars when the entire world's gold supply would only fill one lifeboat. And here's the thing. Ponzi knows this. He'd watched this exact machine break before in Montreal. He knew how it ends. He just thought he was smarter than Zarasi. The coupons were a bedtime story for adults who wanted to believe. The only real transaction happening was moving money from one pocket to another, and the pockets were running out. But while Ponzi parties, someone's watching. Someone who's seen this before. Someone who knows the numbers don't add up. What he found would end the greatest fraud in American history. But not before Ponzi tried to destroy him first. July 1920. The Boston Post assigns Clarence Barron to investigate Ponzi. Barron is 65 years old. He owns the Wall Street Journal. He's widely considered the founder of modern financial journalism. He knows fraud when he sees it. Show me the coupons. I can't disclose my business methods. Then show me the trades. That's proprietary. Then show me anything. I show you results. Look at my investors. Barron does the math. It's simple, brutal, undeniable. To generate the profits Ponzi is promising, you'd need to buy and ship 160 million postal coupons. Each coupon weighs about 1 gram. That's 160 metric tons of paper, shipped from Europe to Boston every month. The entire postal system doesn't handle that much volume, and nobody's seen a single shipment arrive. Barron puts down his pencil. He's been a financial analyst for 40 years. He's seen fraud. He's seen incompetence. He's seen delusion. But he's never seen anything this brazen. This man hasn't bought a single coupon. Not one. And half of Boston has given him their life savings. Either Ponzi is running a secret postal empire bigger than the US government, or he's full of shit. What Barron did wasn't complicated. He didn't need insider information. He didn't need a finance degree. He asked one question. If this is real, What would it physically look like? 160 million coupons. 160 metric tons. Cargo ships crossing the Atlantic every week. The answer was obvious. It would look like something. And it looked like nothing. That's the question that kills every Ponzi scheme. Not, is this real? Too abstract. But, if this is real, what should I be able to see? If you can't see the product, the inventory, the trades, the actual mechanism that generates returns, it's not real. Doesn't matter how good the story sounds. July 26, 1920. The Boston Post publishes Barron's analysis. Headline: Questions about Ponzi's scheme. Ponzi's response? Attack. He calls Barron jealous, calls the Post fake news. He threatens to sue. He doubles down. Mr. Ponzi, the math doesn't work. The math is perfect. You just don't understand it. Show us proof. I will, when I'm ready. People are asking for their money back, and I'm paying them in full, with interest. Will you open your books? When the time is right. The time is now. Then arrest me. And at first, he does pay. Picture this line. It's July in Boston, 90 degrees. You've been standing for 3 hours. Your shirt is soaked through. The woman behind you is praying in Italian. The man in front of you hasn't spoken since he arrived. He just keeps opening and closing his wallet, looking at a photograph inside. You don't know what Clarence Barron wrote in the newspaper. You don't understand the math about postal coupons. All you know is that every dollar you have in the world is inside that building. And the man who has it is standing on the steps, smiling, handing out coffee like this is a block party. Ponzi hands out cash, buys them coffee and donuts while they wait. Photographers capture him smiling, surrounded by terrified investors, acting like he hasn't got a care in the world. But behind that smile, panic. Because the math is simple. More people want out than in. The machine is breaking. Now here's what's insane. The newspaper exposed him. Investors are lining up to withdraw. And Ponzi is winning. He's paying everyone back, buying them coffee, posing for photos. The crowd actually starts to turn back in his favor. It looks like he might survive this, until someone inside his own circle decides to end it. William McMasters, Ponzi's PR guy, the man hired to make him look good. He walks into the Boston Post office and says, he's broke, completely broke. The whole thing is a fraud. McMasters had found incriminating documents showing Ponzi was simply robbing Peter to pay Paul. He later described Ponzi as a financial idiot who couldn't even add properly. The Post paid McMasters $5,000 for the story. Early August 1920, the article drops. Ponzi hopelessly insolvent. The line of investors becomes a mob. Police form barricades. Women crying. Men shouting. Ponzi still smiling, still promising, still lying. Within days, it's over. Federal charges. Mail fraud. Ponzi pleads guilty on November 1st, 1920, before Judge Clarence Hale. When investigators finally audit his company, they find the truth. He bought exactly 0 postal coupons. The entire operation? Taking Peter's money to pay Paul. But the arrest isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of the pain. Because Ponzi might be in jail, but tens of thousands of people just lost everything. Let's talk about the people who lost. Not the numbers, the people. Riccardo Bogni, Italian immigrant, janitor, invested $4,000, his entire life savings, to buy a house for his family. Now, living in a boarding house. His wife won't speak to him. Why did you trust him? He's Italian, like me. He helps people like me. And now? Now I have nothing. But here's what makes this worse than just one man's crime. Sarah didn't invest $1 with Ponzi. She'd never heard of him. She kept her money in Hanover Trust, a real bank. But Hanover Trust gave Ponzi loans. And when Ponzi collapsed, Hanover collapsed. And Sarah's savings, the money she never risked, never gambled, never gave to anyone, vanished. Tens of thousands of investors, millions lost. That's over $200 million in today's money. Teachers who lost pensions, firemen who lost savings, families who lost homes. I didn't even invest in Ponzi. Then why did you lose everything? My bank did, and when they went under, they took us with them. And Ponzi? He goes to federal prison, serves 3.5 years, gets out, immediately starts another scam, selling swampland in Florida, goes back to prison, gets deported to Italy because he never became an American citizen, tries to hustle in Italy, fails, drifts to Brazil, takes a job as a translator, earns $5 a day, watches the world forget he ever existed. In January 1949, in a charity ward in Rio de Janeiro, a nurse checks on a patient in bed 14. He's 66 years old, partially paralyzed from a stroke, nearly blind. He weighs less than he did when he arrived in Boston at 21, with $2.50 in his pocket. There's no family at the bedside, no visitor's log, no flowers. The man who once had crowds of thousands waiting to give him their money dies with no one waiting for anything. They find $75 in his belongings. It goes to the funeral home. There's nothing left over. But here's the thing that should terrify you. Ponzi didn't invent this scheme. He just perfected it. And 75 years after his death, it's still working. I need to show you 3 names. Bernie Madoff, $65 billion Ponzi scheme, ran it for 20 years, while regulators looked the other way. Alan Stanford, $7 billion. Sam Bankman-Fried, $8 billion. I invested in FTX because SBF seemed legit. Why? He was on magazine covers. He donated to charity. Everyone said he was a genius. What did Ponzi drive? A locomobile. The most expensive car in... What did SBF wear to Congress? Shorts and a t-shirt. Why? Because it made him look like he didn't care about money. And what did Ponzi do? He bought people coffee during the bank run. Why? Because it made him look like he didn't care about money. Same scheme. Same scheme. The scheme works because we want it to work. We want to believe that someone out there has figured out how to beat the system, that we can get rich without risk, that this time is different. We started in 1920 with a man, a promise, and a postage stamp. We watched him collect millions in 8 months. We watched him become a hero. We watched him fall. We watched thousands of people lose everything. Charles Ponzi died 75 years ago, But the Ponzi scheme is immortal because it doesn't rely on technology. It relies on something that never changes: human greed and human hope. Every generation thinks they're too smart to fall for it. Every generation is wrong. So here's how you spot it. Ponzi promised 50%, too high. He said, "You don't need to understand," too vague. He paid early investors to create testimonials. He drove a $12,600 car to prove it worked. And when someone asked to see the books, he said, "When I'm ready." Every Ponzi scheme since has followed the exact same playbook. If it's so easy to make this money, why do they need yours? That's the question Ponzi never answered. That's the question Madoff never answered. And the next time someone promises you guaranteed returns with zero risk, it's the question they won't answer either. Because the only person who gets rich in a Ponzi scheme is Ponzi. Everyone else is just funding his locomobile. And somewhere, right now, someone is hearing the same pitch. 50% returns, guaranteed, risk-free. A technology so revolutionary, you don't need to understand it. Just trust them. Just invest. That person might be your cousin, your coworker, your mom. And the only difference between them and Ricardo Bogni in 1920 is whether someone who knows the pattern says something. You've just spent 20 minutes learning the pattern. Now you know what Barron knew, what McMasters knew. The question is whether you'll do what they did and say something, or stay quiet and hope it works out. It never works out. This was Charles Ponzi, the man who invented modern fraud. He's been dead for 75 years, but walk down any street, open any app, check any investment group, and you'll find him. Still promising, still smiling, still lying.